recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Community's Roundtable Podcast. Today is Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. It is 12 o'clock in California, and we're going live with the podcast. Excited to be here. Corey Romero, you're here as well. Let's just talk a little bit about what's new. How's it going out there in Utah?
Things are going great in Utah. The weather is warm. It's been very, very hot, and there's still snow in the mountains a little bit, up in the peaks, surprisingly, almost early July, and it's still got snow. But yeah, things are well. Eric, how are things in California?
Well, let me tell you, in the Bay Area, it is 107 degrees outside yesterday. It was a scorcher. In the VMware parking lot, I parked down. I had to walk through a parking lot. I swear it was going to kill me by the time I made it across the tarmac. It was, I think up at the VMware campus, it was 110, because down in Palo Alto Flatlands, it was 107. But man, it is a scorcher. We've got a heat wave coming through here. So, it'll only supposed to last another 2 or 3 days. It'll cool back down into the 80s and 70s as always, but it is a scorcher right now, and I think the rest of the United States is also experiencing similar heat. On the show today, we're going to be talking to Brad Tompkins, Mr. VMUG himself, something manager director or some title like that. We'll get to what Brad does in a minute, but before we go over Brad and talk VMUG and everything, user groups and what's happening with Broadcom and all the things that he gets to go do, hanging out with Hawk 10, all that, we'll talk to Brad. But before we get to Brad, Corey, what's going on with vExperts?
So vExpert applications for the second half are open, and they're going to close July 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. We're targeting a August 9th announcement for the awards, so there's just about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks left to still apply, so plenty of time. As an applicant this year, you have an option to request access to the vExpert communication platform. This access gives you a chance to chat with and engage with myself and the other vExpert pros. We can do early application reviews, or go in and look at your application and let you know what you need to adjust or change to make sure you receive the award. You can find that on the front page of vexpert.vmware.com. You can just click request access to vExpert communication platform, and then I'll send you an invite. There's a blog article coming out later today in about 2 hours on that as well. It's going to be on blogs.vmware.com/vexpert. And other than that, we have got, I think we're going to touch on this in a minute, but we got our Explore community leadership reception as well, which I'm excited about in Las Vegas.
Yeah, awesome. We'll talk to Brad about that as well, because we're doubling up on the leadership party, inviting leaders. We'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah. I got some commentary on that, I'm sure, but good. And we do the shout out to Explore. Schedule Builder is not out yet, but Content Calendar is up, so you can go check that out. We still got the second round of content that is going to go up. We got some great ChatGPT labs this time, focusing on coding and using ChatGPT to write PowerShell. So it should be some fun. Last year we just did an intro to ChatGPT. This year we're doing an intro in case you missed it, and then we're doing a 202 class that will actually use it to write the code, because nowadays everybody's writing code with ChatGPT. I don't think anybody's going to write code from scratch any longer. So we'll get to that. That'll be fun. Good labs. VMUG's going to be in the booth. VMUG community. I think Brad Tompkins is actually going to do a session in the community booth this year, so that should be fun. Reg is picking up, so if you are looking for something to do in late August, there's going to be a bunch of people there. It should be a lot of fun. Same stuff as always: sessions, labs, code labs. Hackathon got launched. Hackathon's wrapping up, and Hackathon this year is going to actually be front and center in the venue. So if you're looking for something to do on Monday night and you don't want to get drunk and you don't want to gamble, then why don't you come hang out with the nerds, right? And work with the professional automators, right? Because everybody that's on a team for the hackathon knows how to automate the data center. We'll have an open category, so you can come, just drop in and learn stuff. We're going to have a couple sessions in the beginning, so if you want to learn a little bit about coding and then drop in an open session, you can. Or if you just want to hang out and not just go party your brains out in Vegas, come hang out with the nerds, because the nerds will be doing it all night Monday from 7 till, it usually goes till midnight. So hang out with us there. And I hear we're going to give away t-shirts. So it should be a good event. So that's in the books as well. So watch out for that one. And I know, Corey, you're putting together the external events calendar as always. So the Veeam party and all the other things that are going on in the evening. So you guys can keep track of that. So a lot of energy going on to Explore. And I know we've committed to Explore for 2025. So no cutbacks in anything we're doing with the community and Explore. And that leads us into Brad and VMUG. And, I saw a post by somebody, I won't call out their name, that was kind of negative on the V community, right? Like, oh, the V community's over, and I cut my chops on V experts, and I'm just reading this stuff, and I'm nice. I'm not gonna jump on a thread, but I am kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, I think you're just doing clickbait because we still got V experts, we still got VMUG, Broadcom's giving us more money for the V community than we got previous years. And everything is still, like on fire as far as I'm concerned. Yet we got people out there going, oh, doom and gloom. The V community is over. And I'm like, this reminds me of Hyper-V days when everybody's like, oh, Hyper-V is going to take over VMware.
It's over. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
The community is going to fold. What are we going to do? It's like, we're going to make a bunch of money. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep doing what we've always done, run data centers. So there you go. And what better way to kick off that thread than having Brad come on the show and talk barbecue for the 4th of July and also talk about the momentum. So Brad, we always welcome to the show. As always, give us your title. What do you do? And how long have you been doing it? You get like a 2-minute elevator pitch.
All right. I love it. So my name is Brad Tompkins, and thanks guys for having me back on again. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. And my title is the Executive Director of VMUG. And so my responsibility is the global VMUG. And we do a lot of things all over the globe. And obviously there's a fantastic team behind me that deserves all the credit. But it is fun to represent such a unique community. It's really an honor and a pleasure to represent that community. I've been a part of VMUG for a long time. I started as the Executive Director in 2015. And so, wow, I'm coming up actually the first was 9 years. So I've been doing this for 9 years and
nearly a decade.
So good stuff there. But
when I first met you, Brad, I just got to throw this in. When I first met you, Lord, you were a lot younger.
Maybe there's a before and after, VMUG day 1, VMUG year 9. I don't know. Hopefully less than the presidents do, but we'll see.
So that's what you're doing now, right? Like, always good to get you through that intro. VMUG is alive and well, right? So maybe we should just address that as well. Like, you've worked with us. Let's hear it from you. You're independent, so you don't have to toe the Eric line, right? Of, oh gosh, everything is great. We fund you. The BUs fund you. Like, what's your impression of, VMware by Broadcom's support this year?
Yeah, and a couple things about VMUG, and you touched on it. We are an independent organization. Obviously, we're tightly aligned with VMware and VMware by Broadcom, but we're an independent organization. We're managed by a board of directors that have 11 voting members on it. Eric is the only Broadcom voting member on the board. The other 10 are end users, and they work in their day jobs as CIOs or security folks or admins or whatever it is that they do. And so that's kind of how VMUG gets the direction and the strategy. And our revenue comes from 3 primary places. And the first one is from sponsors and partners. If you go to a UserCon or go to a webinar or virtual event, you'll see people like Valley Cyber and like Zerto and like Pure. They're pitching in to be here to talk about their products, how they work with VMware and those sort of things. And that's about 50% of our revenue. 30% of our revenue comes from VMUG Advantage. So VMUG membership is free. Most of our events are free. There is one exception that's grandfathered in. That's the Netherlands. But the rest of them are free to attend. Local meetings are free. So we don't monetize our members that way. But if members choose to be part of VMUG Advantage, they can be. And that's a $210 US subscription for a year. And you get a lot of different things for that. You get discounts on training. Right now, a lot of people are taking advantage of the $100 off for VMware Explore passes. You get some license in there, a bunch of different things in there. And that's 30% of our revenue. And 20% does come from Broadcom. And it comes from kind of a couple different places in Broadcom. One is just general Broadcom marketing. but the bulk of the 20% comes from the business divisions. So obviously the VCF division is a big sponsor of ours. ANS division is another large sponsor of ours. And that's how we have great keynotes that we've had, all across the globe so far. I was pulling up some stats before coming on this podcast. We've had 14 UserCons, 3 in Europe. We've had the rest of them in North America, and over 3,000 people have attended those UserCons collectively, of course. And there's over 50 partners that are represented at these UserCons. So it is a vibrant, growing community. We have over 165,000 members across the globe. And it's interesting. We have seen a spike with all the news about Broadcom and the changes. And this is typical of user groups. We've seen a spike in new members. They're like, okay, how can I get more information from maybe not the source, but from a trusted partner? And that's what VMUG is. And of course, we get our information from Broadcom as well. But there's a lot of FUD out there. It's starting to get better. Communications are getting better and those kind of things. But one of the things that we spun up was the town hall. So we do a town hall. This is a virtual meeting. We do 2 to cover time zones and all over the globe. We've done 7 of those, and over 4,000 unique people have attended those town halls. And it's a great place for people to get together. I leave the chat open. We have Q&A. The chat gets lively sometimes, but it's a town hall. So say what you want to say. And
I got to give you credit for leaving the chat open. I was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And Brad's like, "Yeah, we're doing that." And I'm like, "Oh my God, you have more guts than I do." But yeah, it works out. And that's your point. It's
That's
users, right?
Yeah, because we're all here. We're all trying to navigate, what this means. Not only Broadcom, and obviously there's some changes there, but I'm sure we'll talk about 5.2. I'm very excited that there's technology out that we can talk about outside of subscription and price changes and things like that. So I think that's a peek into what the future is going to be with Broadcom and VMware by Broadcom. And I'm excited about that. Explore is going to be another great place to not only learn more about 5.2, but also, I'm sure there'll be more announcements. And so it's going to be building on that. I feel like I'm
talking to a university president here. I remember at university, I'd get to meet a university president. I'd ask him a question, and I'd get like 7-minute answer, and it never really answered the original question. It just turned into like the president talking about whatever's in his head. So the question was, does Broadcom support you guys the same, more or less, than we did in previous years?
Okay, well, I would like to say that I think I did answer that question, but yes, they are supporting us even more so than they did.
There you go.
Than VMware did in the past. And this is
not, they were supporting you, but I actually looked at the numbers, and you're actually getting more money from us than you ever have.
And it's not only the monetary support. I mean, think about it. Hock Tan was at the Germany UserCon. He keynoted that event. We were working with his team to possibly get him in a couple more UserCons the rest of the year. And yes, we had the Ragus and the Pat speak at events before, but not, more than one a year, not even averaging one a year. So that's amazing. And you think about Hock Tan, he's not just the CEO of VMware by Broadcom. He's the CEO of all of Broadcom. So this is a major CEO, obviously huge implications on AI, both on the VMware side, but on the Broadcom chip side. So to have somebody like that at a VMUG, that is support that money cannot buy.
I know that he's planning on going to a few more. I don't want to talk about it at this point because I'll get myself in trouble. But I know for the rest of the year, he's penciling in places he's going to be, right? And super impressed by that. So yeah, I think that executives certainly support the users. I feel like, and you could give me your opinion, Brad, I feel like he's also listening.
I would agree with that. And I know some people are going to be like, well, I don't know, because they made all these changes. But if you go back and you look at some of the things that was said, even, pre-acquisition, like what they're going to do, I think that drive to VCF, there's no changing on that, but I'm a big fan of that. And I'm personally glad that EUC is spun off. I'm glad that Carbon Black is in a different division of Broadcom. Focus on making VCF, the best that it can be. But some of the things that we've heard were things around like, discounts, especially like SLED and education discounts. And there's not going to be a SKU that says, okay, here's your, education, academic, whatever discount. But And this was on his blog. I think it was on the 11th. He said, we're going to price out VCF based off the value it brings. So we've been telling our members, look, now's the time to negotiate. If you're going for VCF, negotiate, and tell them, look, we're academic. We need to get this kind of price, those sort of things. I have no visibility into people's pricing and what they have outside of what I've heard anecdotally, but I have heard that there have been some discounts based on your unique situation, whether it's academia, whether it's, look, I'm going to buy VCF, but I'm not going to be able to use it fully until 2 or 3 years from now. So that to me is an example of Broadcom and Hawk 10 listening to their customers and making adjustments where they can, but also sticking to that vision of we need to make it simple and we need to make VCF better.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, like I see him listening, and I also know that VMware was in 5 million different directions, right? We were having Ariana Grande parties on the lawns, right? What does that have to do with compute virtualization and kernel and performance and nothing, right? We had turtle ponds and turtle events and putting the turtles in the pond, turtles out of the pond. And it's like, pretty soon you're just like, does anybody do computer science around here anymore? Right? Like I felt that way. Right. And I know it wasn't all that way, but I think we had 500 people working in the CTO office, dreaming up stuff that maybe we could do. And I'm like, you don't have to dream up anything. Just go work on vSphere and make vSphere, vSAN, and NSX work together. You don't need 500 people in a CTO office investigating everything. So I feel like Hawk has come in and said, computer science. We do chips, we do kernel, we do C++, C, assembly. We're building scalable architecture technology. So I do like refocusing on that. So I feel a little bit like that, like the company has shifted direction. And I sell honey, Brad. I sell honey. I got hives and I bottle the stuff up. And the one thing that I learned, don't offer a lot of different bottles of stuff because it just grinds you to death having to put little honey. So you know what I offer now? One jar, $10. That's it. It's one jar, $10. That's all I got. I do 2 flavors sometimes because in the winter it's darker and in the summer it's lighter. So I got caramel honey and I got orange honey because that's the color of it. That's it. Because it's efficient, right? It allows me to do more production, get at the things that are important to my customers versus over marketing. So we went from having 500 people in marketing down to 80 people in marketing. Why? Because it's more efficient. It gets us at that. So I feel that way, but they kept everybody in the community team, right? Because I feel like Hawk, being a technologist, meets with you, goes to your events, listens to what the community has to say, and then I think tweaks a little bit. I see some tweaking. So I like that. I think that's good. And I think things have settled down from that perspective. Right.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think VMware, obviously I'm a homer. I love VMware and all that kind of stuff, but I do think they kind of got a little too wide. And so focusing on VCF, and I think 7 months after acquisition, you've got 5.2 that's launched. And it's the first time that vSAN, vSphere, NSX all had updates at the same time. And I've heard this numerous times, in the past, maybe if NSX needed some kind of engineering help from vSAN, it might be difficult to get because they're 2 different BUs. Now it's all Chris's division. And it's like, look, we got to get it done. Like, let's just get it done. And I think 5.2 showed that they can get it done quickly. And I'm looking forward to what else is going to be coming out. Hopefully some big announcements at Explore coming up here in a month and a half.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we talked about vSphere and 5.2, and I'm sure they have other things in the pipeline. It would be wrong of them not to, but they're not going to tell me what it is, right? Or at least I'm not going to tell you what it is. Like, that's for sure. So talk about leadership, right? To be perfectly honest, there are some people that are going to move away from VMware by Broadcom for a bunch of reasons, because we sold off the EUC stuff, right? That's a good example of that. There could be other customers that were. We've seen the vExpert apps that were down maybe 30%, right? Because some people are just peeling off, right? They're not gonna continue working with Broadcom. But we're also doing enterprise. focusing on enterprise, right? Doing enterprise training, right? Around what does it mean to be an influencer in the enterprise? What are you guys seeing from a VMUG perspective around leadership? And that'll tail into the leadership event that we are having at Explore. So what's your leadership perspective?
Well, first of all, being a VMUG leader is a great way for you to add some of those soft skills to, your technical skills that you already have. And it gives you, the ability to communicate at a different level and to plan things at a different level. And so I encourage anybody, if you're interested in being a leader, you can go to vmug.com. There's a form you can fill out. We will train you and do all this kind of stuff. It's not a heavy lift. It's not really a heavy lift. A lot of it is listening to your local members, finding out what they're interested in, finding out what partners would then fill that need, and getting the event together and these kind of things, representing the community, standing up, doing public speaking. Hey, we're getting ready to kick off our local meeting. And, we've got, sponsor XYZ over here and those sort of things. So I would encourage folks to get involved that way. It will help you. We've all said it a million times. That vSphere admin job that served you well the past decade is not going to serve you that well in the next decade. You've got to add to that. Yes, that's technical skills, but I would argue that's also soft skills as well. And one of the things that our leaders really can do, which I think is going to be a void here that's kind of already starting to create with the changes at Broadcom, is to help out our members that are SMB and commercial. Not everybody's going to need to or going to be able to afford or have the skill set for VCF. And there's answers for that. You can get trained up, you can work with partners. But at the end of the day, there's still going to be some people that VVF is going to be a great fit. And I was so excited that VCF 5.2 came out the same time that VVF 5.2 came out, because it's like, all right, yes, Broadcom is focused on the enterprise. I get that. But there's partners and there's VMUG that can help out the commercial and the SMB who still need to run their vSphere environments, and they're going to continue to get updates and those sort of things. And as a local leader, that's where you can help people out. Another area that we are seeing leaders really step up is in the area of licensing and what to do when you're trying to renegotiate. And Matt Helstab, the VMUG Vice President, has a great session that he's done, and he talks about these are ways that you can reduce down your spend for VMware, especially if you're in a scenario where maybe you were using a really small part and now you're falling into one of the four SKUs. It's a VVF, so you're getting a lot more technology, but yes, you're paying more for that too. Ways to get that down, reducing core count, looking at your environment, those kind of things. So those are ways that really shows leadership, shows people that are in touch with what's going on. And we're all here to help each other out. And we want people, obviously, for VMUG to continue, we need people to have VMware environments in their data centers. And I'm not concerned about that going away. But, you mentioned down on the vExperts, we're actually seeing a bump on membership. But, there's some ebb and flow that will happen there. But the people that stick around, obviously, will continue with VMware content. But the people that don't, we still will have content for them. Maybe it's around security. Maybe it's around AI. Some of these general topics that it really doesn't matter what hypervisor you're running. And we'll, of course, have sponsors that can help out as well. Like a Pure Storage, they'll run whatever hypervisor you want to. Obviously, they're a big VMware partner and they want it to be VMware. But we're hoping to still keep the community together. Even if you move off of VMware, because I have a hunch that you're going to be back in that VMware camp before too long. So we'll continue to welcome everybody. I get this question a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it. No, we're not going to talk about other hypervisors at VMUGs. That's not what we're here for. There's obviously competition out there. You can find a million resources to find out about those, but you won't be finding out about other hypervisors at a VMUG. So just wanted to state that out there clearly.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I would say is that Hawk had said at one of the meetings, like, I don't mind 10% growth, right? There are probably other areas that are growing 20, 30%, different market segments. He's like, I just like a nice 8 to 10% growth company. I'll structure our expense model so we won't be feeding the turtles and we won't be doing, crazy stuff, right? Like Ariana Grande concerts on campus, which we were doing every quarter, right? cut back expense, but then focus on just running a good company at 8 to 10% growth, focused on the data center, delivering data center products. That's actually good for everybody's career, right? Because honestly, that's what we used to get. Me and Brad, we used to sit in a board meeting, and Matt would raise his hand, and several other board members like, we need to get back to basic vSphere content, right? We had stop doing AWS, VMC and AWS cloud and cross cloud and multi-cloud. People used to yell at us telling us this, right? Now we're almost like getting yelled at for, well, what are you doing? Right? We're focusing back on the data center, but this is actually really what the users have been wanting for a long time. And then, Brad, I'll get your thoughts around. Oh, and by the way, AI and GPU management is showing up and growing the data center. So even maybe more than 8 or 10%. So there's going to be a lot of need to not only manage your data center and keep going to VMUG to learn how everybody's doing it, but then there are places that will be new and growing, right?
I mean, look, it's IT. We all live this stuff. I mean, the changes come at you fast. 1 year it's Kubernetes, 1 year it's multi-cloud, now it's AI. And I like the messaging from Broadcom about, look, just do this on-prem. Now, they're not abandoning the hyperscalers. And obviously, there's a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud, whatever you want to call it, solution in there. But most of our members are very comfortable doing this on-prem. And, they like to have their servers, where their servers are. They know where they are and all those kind of things. But they're still going to upskill with things like AI and what that application can run. And VMware making VCF and the cloud operating system more simple to run is now going to help elevate all our members up a little bit, so they can now sit at the table and be like, okay, let me tell you how IT can be a differentiator, as opposed to, okay, I'm just here keeping the blinking lights on and making sure that, we have security and those kind of things. I mean, this is no different to me. It's going to take a little bit longer, but no different than, Exchange and email, right? Nobody's running Exchange anymore. Are people going to be running cloud operating models on-prem? Yes, but we need to get it simpler. So that's almost an afterthought. And then you can focus on those applications, those workloads on top, which will be AI, which could be Kubernetes if you're, one of those type shops, or those kind of things. And then who knows what it's going to be next year that we'll be talking about. But I think AI is going to be here for a while. We'll be talking about it for a long time. And listen, it is amazing that you've got Broadcom with the AI offering that VCF has and the AI plan from a software perspective. And then you got the AI chips and you've got everything. Charlie Kawwas was on stage at Dell Tech World with Michael Dell. And I'm like, wow, Broadcom is a major, major player when it comes to AI and data centers. And every time I learn more about it and I see it, I'm like, this is even bigger than I'm even imagining. And I know NVIDIA is king of the GPU world right now, but I see a lot of articles that said the real darling is Broadcom. And man, that's going to be exciting to be a part of this and see where this goes in the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like right now, we're like VMware, and then we put by Broadcom, right? But I feel like the by Broadcom is getting a little shiny twinkle to it, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't when we got bought and when we announced it, but if you listen to people now and some of the reports, and we're like the little bit of a darling against NVIDIA, right? And so, and then when you look at how Facebook's going to use custom silicon for their AI strategies in the data center, you start going, oh, this has potential for all of us as VMware ecosystem participants, right? Like this could actually drive our career, another jump forward, which I kind of equate it back to the hypervisor, where everybody's like, oh, it's over. Microsoft's taking it over. They're going to own, Hyper-V's going to own everything. And it's like, that was the furthest thing from the truth, right? Like, we made a ton more money in storage and networking and the data center, and, took more and more of that market. So wouldn't be surprised if similar things continue to happen. So, neat. Let's talk about Explore for a little bit. So I know you're going to be at Explore, right? You've got a booth. I know we were talking about putting together an event. So your leaders and people that are key to Explore, VMUG leaders, will get invited there. Are you excited about Explore this year? And it's now only 8 weeks away?
Yeah, I tell you, I'm always very excited about Explore. I think this year is going to be even more so because obviously the acquisition hadn't happened when the Explorers were going on. So this will kind of be the first one. I'm curious who's going to be on stage, who's going to have the most time on stage, not from a competition perspective, but, it'll be interesting to see, how all that unfolds. Of course, VMUG's going to be there. We'll be in the community area. Please stop by and come see us. And it's always just great to see the community. It is like a big family reunion. The sessions are great. I'm hearing that the sessions are getting more technical. I think a few years they kind of try to get a little bit more high level and more C-level.
Yeah.
Yeah, C-level things. So I'm glad that it's getting back, to more technical content, and excited about that. I do have a session that is going to be around maximizing VMUG and how do you leverage your 150,000 community member. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to. And we've got a few sessions going on. I believe Matt Hellstab's doing one as well. And Justin Sider, he's on the board. He's got one of the main sessions. So lots of things going on. Just keep following VMUG. We'll let you know about all the VMUG members and leaders that have sessions going on. But it's going to be a great time. I like the Venetian. I'm a big fan of that. I'm happy it's back in Vegas. I know it was there last year too, but that was a good move. That allows more members to come. Because, let's face it, in Vegas, you can pay as little or as much as you want to for a hotel room. In San Fran, you're just paying a lot for a hotel room. There's no other way to cut it. So I think that was a good move.
Same with the flight. You can get cheap deals into Vegas, right? So, yeah.
That's right. So I encourage everybody to come out. Of course, use your VMUG Advantage. You get $100 off the pass, and make sure that you're doing that.
That's a good segue into Advantage now, right? So I know you get a lot of questions. Maybe I'll coach you through this, Brad, right? But but Advantage is still out there, right? I can go buy Advantage today, get my discounts, get my education discount, my Explore discount. I could still get licenses. I mean, there's just Advantage is still there, right? We've heard all this is Advantage going to go away. Can you set to rest that Advantage will be here for us in the future?
Yeah, so Advantage is here. It's alive and well. Go buy your Advantage. It's definitely worth the price. It's $210 US. There's 10% codes off all over the place. My DM's on the screen there, so or my Twitter is, so shoot me a DM and I'll give you a code. But yeah, so Advantage is here. Not only is it here, we're going to have some announcements coming up in the next week or so about some additions that we're super excited about. I had coffee with a gentleman here in Nolensville. That's where I live, outside of Nashville. I'm in Nashville right now. But so I had coffee with him about another benefit that we're looking to add, probably maybe Q1 of next year. So we're always looking to add to Advantage. Look, if you're a vendor out there and that you want to get that in front, we got about 14,000 Advantage members. Let me know. We'd love to see if we can get your product incorporated into Advantage. Always looking to expand it. And candidly, with Broadcom saying focus on VCF, vSAN, vSphere, NSX, some of those other things that they've let go of allows VMUG to kind of cast a wider net. Like I'll say, take with Omnissa and the EUC division. Now we can have content on here about Citrix or Cameo or, whomever it out. Same with Carbon Black. If a CrowdStrike or somebody like that wants to be at a VMUG, they can, because before, just being, good partners and good corporate citizens, I'll say, we didn't necessarily have competitors at events. Well, now that's not a competitor of VMware by Broadcom, so it's open up. So if you're a partner and you're interested in getting in front of the 150,000 plus members, let me know. But back to Advantage, yeah, live and well, and make sure that you're taking advantage of it, pun intended.
I know I can get myself in trouble here, but I'll just get myself. Nobody important listens to this anyway. But I would say that we are trying to go on a very big discount for VCP certification testing, right? So because I think that Broadcom wants to get everybody VCP certified, right? And they made the education really cheap for enterprise customers. I think it's like free. So and they dropped the requirement to sit for education in order to take your VCP certification.
That was huge.
Right. It used to be you had to spend $3,000 on a class every 5 years to qualify to sit for your VCP cert. Now they dropped that. You don't have to take the $3,000 VMware class in order to sit for you have to learn it, you have to know it. So maybe you can get your local chapter meeting to do a VCP training session or something. But once you do that, then all you have to do is spend $250 on the test. Right now, $250 is still $250. So what a better way to get VMUG Advantage to give you, a huge amount of that off, right? And so I know we're working that deal behind the scenes. We haven't announced it yet. You haven't announced it yet. It's not inked yet, but I could see that coming in the future, right? Right. We're trying to expand Advantage, right? That's the idea behind it, right?
That's absolutely the idea. Continue to expand Advantage. It's been a great program of ours. And as I mentioned earlier, it's roughly 30% of our revenue that allows us to fund things like being at Explore and, UserCons and, trying UserCons in new cities and those sort of things.
And getting Hawk to show up, right? Getting big key people, speakers to show up, right? You have to have the show to do the up, right?
That's right. That's right. So Advantage is a great program. So we love that.
And the other thing that I've always commented on, Brad, which, I get one little voice on the board, which is like, I don't know, there's like 16 of us. So my voice is, I'm loud, 11. I'm half deaf, but that's about it. Like, it's like, they listen to me, but I'm not sure anybody acts on anything. But I always go like, Advantage, $200 a year for something as good as a community membership. If I had my druthers, I just make everybody pay $200 and, give you $200, expense it on an expense report or eat it. One of the two, right? You should be making a good living, because this is what creates the ecosystem, right? And most everybody works for free, right? Like there's nobody getting big salaries, right? All the VMUG leaders and, we're doing this stuff out of the, the happiness of being a community. So for $200, you can go pay for a car wash, you can go get a nice dinner, or you can get a year support, right? So I'm like, regardless of what Advantage has in it, all the discounts and all that, I feel like Advantage is one of these things that everybody should have, right? You should have your Advantage card, and it just should be something proud that you do, right? So that's my 2 cents. Like, if you're listening to this, you should pay up for a VMUG Advantage. I bought mine just a month ago, right? I don't have to buy one. Brad would give me one for free, but you know what? I know that we have to pay into this thing to get a good quality community out of it. So happy about that. Let's talk about the leadership event. We got a leadership event. Corey Romero, I know you're inviting vExperts to the leadership event, and we're keeping a list. It's going to be where? At the Black Tap. Yep. Venetian, right? I say black tie, black top, and eventually it's black tap. I should think beer. So at the Black Tap, I think you did a leadership one there last year, if I remember right. But we also did the Pinball Museum one where we invited all the vExperts and everybody else. This year, we're bringing that all together, and we're doing it in the Venetian because it's going to be hot and nobody wants to go to the Pinball Museum one more time. We've done that enough, right? So
yes,
that's good. I know we're keeping a list. I know you guys have invited people. The invites have gone out to leaders, right? So watch out for that. You have to RSVP. So we're gonna be at the gate looking at people. How many we have. The place I think holds 250 people, right? So we can't exceed. The fire marshal will shut us down if we have 800 people show up, but on average, that's about how many we get, right? I think at the Pinball Museum, we had 230 people. We invited everybody we could, and everybody came. So hopefully it'll be good, and you won't have to hustle all the way down the strip this year.
Yeah, it should be great. Yeah, invites went out yesterday. So emails for all the programs went out yesterday morning, and so you should have received that. If you haven't received one for vExpert, reach out to me, Corey, corey.romero@broadcom.com, and we'll figure out why you didn't receive that.
Nice.
That's going to be a good event. I like that location. I'm glad that it's all under one roof. That's one of the things I like about the Venetian in Vegas. Going outside is great if you want to, but if you don't want to, you don't have to, and everything's there. So, and I hear the party with Jimmy Eat World's going to be at the Venetian too. So that's nice.
Oh yeah, and they announced the what's the band name?
Jimmy Eat World.
Yep.
Jimmy Eat World. I don't get that, but okay. This is now starting to show the generation Jimmy Eat World. I'm like, I do love the song. The couple of their songs are good. One of them is a classic party song. So
Absolutely.
that'll rock when they get that one going for sure.
And I saw your other podcast when you were talking to them about the rain last year. Oh my gosh, I got caught in that rain. It was a mess. I was just like, I'm just going to have to go for it. I was soaked, but it was still fun. I had a good time.
There was like a foot of water running through the city too.
That was
It was
crazy.
insane.
I remember that.
Yeah. Well, that's what's fun about going to Explore is that, things happen with your friends, right? Memories happen, right?
Memories.
If you stay at home all the time, you're just going to miss out on some really happy memories, right? My daughter got married this weekend up in the northern wine country, and memories are made with your friends. And I think I bought everybody shots, right? I think I was 22 shots in by the time I passed out somewhere in a field by a wine plant, right? Like the wine plant became my best friend. I was like, oh, my buddy. But those are memories, right? That's community memories that you create, and you don't want to miss those. We sit around and we work all day in a data center. It's like, this is a chance to get out, convince your boss to come, right? And got to carve up the money. But it is one of those things you get to learn and engage with everybody at the same time. So, and then you could say, Brad, you heard it on the podcast, right? And here's what I'd say: we're still going. Right? Like those people that go, oh, the V community's over. It's like, no, it's not. No,
we're still going.
No, it's not. Brad's here, Eric's here, all the team's here, everybody's here. They're actually giving us more money. We're doing more. They're coming, Hawktan's coming to multiple VMUG UserCons, right? Like that didn't happen before, right? Like, no, the V community is super healthy. Whether or not, you like the strategy of AI and, on-prem data centers and all that other stuff is up to, that's personal choice. But I would say there's great tech coming down the pike and the V community is ready to receive it. Right. Like,
amen to that.
Yeah. We just had 300 V experts on a call for our VCF 2 weeks ago. It was phenomenal. One of the best calls I've ever had for V experts.
Right.
Yeah. And 300, just shy of 300 listened. So 600 people who absorbed that content.
There was a couple people that took the Broadcom thing too serious, and decided to leave. They had positions here and they decided to leave. Right. And they call me, hey, Eric, how's it going? I'm like, well, the stock is up 5x. So biggest mistake you've ever made. Right. But I go, oh, it's rough, but we're hanging in there. Like, that's what I'd say about the Hyper-V days. Everybody's like, oh, it's going to be over. If you left back then, you just made a huge career mistake, right?
Too many assumptions.
I see a lot of people in that boat right now going, oh, maybe. I'm like, we're on a rocket. This thing is, I'm holding on. I've got clawing onto the big ship because it is on fire, right? And, better tech decisions out of this company than I've seen in 10 years. So not community, but just technical decisions on what they're investing in. There's no more Ariana Grande picnics.
No more turtle investments.
Right? Yep. We're putting the money into VMUG. We're putting in the money into key things. Hawk's coming along. And we keep Brad around. I mean, it's just because he's fun, right?
Didn't Neil have to pitch in to keep him around?
He does.
You're
awesome, all right, Brad.
You're great,
we've had you for almost an hour here, so we gotta ask you because you're here and you're gracious enough to come on our show.
Yeah.
We're coming into the 4th of July weekend, and what a better person to have here than Mr. Brisket himself, right? Who's like a baby brisket man. Me and him are learning how to do a brisket about the same time. We both burn them and turn them into charcoal lumps, but we make our families eat them. What are you going to do over the holiday? Are you planning on doing anything?
Well, for the record, I didn't burn my first brisket. My second brisket did turn out better. I just did that about a month ago. But I'm going to be smoking pork butt. So we'll be doing some pulled Carolina pork sandwiches and all kind of stuff. My wife is fantastic. She'll take all the meat, and then one day we'll eat it this way, the next day this way, the next way this way. So it's kind of nice. So I'm envisioning some definitely pulled pork sandwiches. Then we'll probably have some tacos in there. If we're lucky, a little bit of pizza in there, maybe a day after too. So good stuff. But it's going to be on the smoker for 10 hours. I'm going to start around 5. Should come off about 3, rest up, get some food around, 4:30. So that's the plan.
So you're going to be out in the backyard, 5 a.m., right? Firing up the smoker, right? That's awesome.
Right.
This is like,
that's right.
This is America.
I got to get it on at 5 a.m. So I'll probably start about, 4:30 to get dialed in.
Yeah, I put briskets on at like 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. and pull them off at 5 p.m. the next day. And I'm setting alarms every 2 hours to. Yeah.
I followed Corey Romero's advice. Oh, let's do it overnight. I'm looking at a lump of coal. Like
that's because you have to set your alarm and check your. I don't use coal, so I use the pellets. But you got to make sure your hopper's full. You gotta get up and check the stuff, right? So this isn't a set it and forget it type stuff.
It is not. No, I got the thermometer. It'll beat me if it gets too hot or too cold. So you got to go dial it in.
Yep.
The brisket I started at 4, and I thought it was going to make it all night, but it came off at 2. And I didn't do the full. I just did a flat. So that's why it took a little bit quicker. So, we're all learning, but it's good.
Yeah, I learned that I need to take mine off when it looks like it's getting done. It is done, right? Don't go, well, Corey said to leave it on 18 hours. That's what I do.
Well, it depends on what temperature you're cooking, how you're cooking it, right? So I'll put on a 19, 20-pound brisket, and that'll cook for 24 hours. I cook real slow. I smoke until it's 100. I smoke at 180, and I wait till it's 170-ish. Internal temp, and then that's when I start turning it up just a little bit to and then wrap it and do all the other steps. But yeah, it's a careful, slow process.
Yeah, I'm going to publish a blog article on how to make meat charcoal, right? Like, and you can use that.
Throw it on, light it on fire.
And literally charcoal briquettes. I got a barbecue story though. We after party the next day after the wedding, we invited a bunch of people down to Palo Alto, and we had like 35, 40 people come, family and extended family, to my house where I smoked ribs. And but we had my wife is part Jamaican, so we had a Jamaican chef come, part of the family, and he made some really good stuff, right, that he makes, jerk chicken and whatever, and he thought he's the man because he's he's doing all this jerk stuff or whatever. But I got slabs of rib and I fucking rubbed them, and I took my time marinating them the day before or whatever, and I didn't even show him anything, right? I just did. And then I went out and I smoked them all day, and I do have ribs down to an art. Like, it becomes pink inside, nice, you can see the smoke right through the rib, and the apple juice in there with a little jerk sauce and Mr. Stubbs rubs and garlic and just everything. And then the last 30 minutes I put on a nice light wet sauce so that gets a little bit of wetness to it. They are fantastic. And I brought those out and put them in the lineup of the food. And I also then took my charcoal Kingsford, grill, and did 4 tri-tips, right? And then slice them. And I measured the temperature perfect, like, 142, right? So it was nice pink in the middle. But and I cut these meat platters up, and you could just see his eyes go, and then the whole night it was, oh my God, these ribs are so good. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with that. And if you knew this guy, he isn't one to take losing a cook-off very lightly, right? But I smoked the ribs, baby. I did do that. I got that one down.
Nice work.
6 hours. Perfect. Well, we're at the end of the hour. So, Brad, as always, you go to, I always ask, how do people follow you? Where do you go? It's obviously VMUG.com. And I don't know what your Twitter handle is these days. So I promised I'd fix it, but I never did. What is your Twitter handle again?
Yeah, it's on the screen. It's Brad Tompkins _. I know I hate the underscore at the end, but it's the only one I could get. So Brad Tompkins _ on X. That's probably the best way to get me. My DM's open. You can hit me up on LinkedIn too. It's /SBTompkins. Email is btompkins@vmug.com. That's probably my least preferred method of comm. So, and if you got my cell number, you can text me, WhatsApp me.
Brad is always a guy that'll answer. He answers. I thought I had exclusive access to Brad because I was on the board, and dude, he gives me his phone number. He answers whenever I call, and I talked to like 15 other people. Like, yeah, I called Brad yesterday afternoon. Oh yeah, I called Brad. Oh yeah, I was like, Brad must be on the call with everybody. Like, your wife must hate you. like all day, all night. People because everybody I talk to talks to Brad. So you're the king, man. You are the king. Go to vmug.com, vmug.com, Advantage. There's a link right on the front page for Advantage. And if you haven't bought your Advantage yet, go pick that up. You get a year's full of licenses for a bunch of keys. You get the discount for Explore. You get you're going to get a discount for your VCP certification. I think they give a 20% discount already, but we're going to try to jack that way up. So I would say that if you're listening to this, go re-up your Advantage, right? And then I believe the Advantage auto renews, so then you don't have to mess with it. You can just expense it once a year to whoever happens to pay for bills, maybe your wife, maybe you, maybe your
company.
Right? Maybe your private practice, whatever it is, it's $200, give or take. Get that discount code from Brad Tompkins Underbore to tell him, where's my discount code? Awesome. Good times, Brad. Thanks for spending your lunch with us and talking barbecue. Until next week, Wednesday, everybody have a great rest of your week. And for those in the United States, have a happy 4th of July, and we'll be back again next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Recording paused.